Hi everybody, it's Ammonia Void here, and today I'm here with my second episode, and I would like to dedicate it to the idea of connecting with strangers, how to get approach, and connecting with them. And to give you some kind of context, why I actually would like to talk about it is because it's something that I started exploring in the past 2 years when I began my project about happiness. The project is called Maybe Happiness Is, and it started 2 years ago out of a point of a lot of unhappiness, I would say. And it was very spontaneous project that came to me from one day to another. And it started that I woke up one day in my studio in The Hague, and I just felt so unhappy, and I texted in an hour to my landlord, I would like to leave this apartment in one month. And I had no plan what to do or why. It was just this very strong feeling that I just need to leave my place and just do something different. And by doing this, I invited a lot of instability into my life. Uh, but I understood that through this process, it was more about getting to know what I really want in life and what kind of people, energies I want to be surrounded by. And I still continue working on this project. It's 2 years, as I said. And when I did this, when my lease finished, I learned how to literally live from a sports bag, and it was very hard for me to find a stable place, maybe because I wasn't meant to find a stable place at that moment. So last year in 2023, and let's say part of 2022, I moved around 30 times. At some places I stayed for like a few days, sometimes a week, 2 weeks, and if I was lucky for a month. And it was an intense period because you never know what's coming, and when you are staying somewhere, you always have to already search for something else. But throughout this period, I met so many people, and I traveled a lot to many countries, and I learned how to open myself to new energies, new environments, and how to invite people into my space, into my life. And because of that, I decided to make this episode because I think I learned quite a lot in those past 2 years, and I started learning or adopting some little rituals on how to have this open energy, because first you want to be open but at the same time protected. So I did always a bit of rituals. I can go more in depth into it if you're interested, but it might sound a bit abstract. But it was something that it was insane how well it worked for me, and it was not something that I noticed only. It was also my friends and people that surrounded me that noticed how much approached I get in public. At some point it became really crazy, because every time I was on a bus or in a public transport, or just on the street in a bar, people would just come to me and talk to me, and I felt that they really either felt lonely or that they wanted to share something with me. So I was open to this energy, and often I learned a lot about people, what they crave, what they desire, what they miss in their life. And because I already had this conversation with them, I tried to ask, okay, what does happiness mean to you? And this is how the project evolved. And also, funny thing was that a lot of people approach me for directions. Everywhere I go, they ask me, "Oh, do you know how to go there?" Even though I have absolute directional insanity. So what is it that happens, that people are actually that drives you that makes you connected to each other? Um, I think everybody has a different way of working, and it's very important that you figure out what suits you, what suits your project, and you need to figure out your own own strategy. And in this episode, I will try to share some tips or just some things that I noticed myself from working on this body of work. I think it's also important to realize that it's a two-way process. You want to be approachable to people, and at the same time, you also want to approach people that you are genuinely interested in. I always have this idea at the back of my head that I tend to approach people that I am genuinely interested in, that I want to perhaps become friends with, or there is something that um, makes them not like sexually attractive, but like in a friendly way, that I'm like attracted to that person, because I don't know what it is, if it's an energy, if it's something that is related to my photography. So I just feel drawn to them subconsciously. And um, there's also a lot of problems that I encountered on this journey that I noticed either through my own way of working or when I did workshops. So I think there's a lot of problematics or a lot of layers on how people engage, connect, and approach strangers. So I can give you a little bit of examples here. So for instance, I had this workshop, and I was explaining a set of exercises on how to engage with people, and there was one workshop participant. The task was that people should go to the street and start photographing and engaging with people. And this one participant asked me, okay, so now I go to the streets and I search for strange people and I photograph them. Well, you can already imagine my facial expression. You just don't go outside and make a spectacle out of somebody else's misfortune, or you don't just approach people in a way that you instantly other them from you. I think when people do that, it's just from the fact that they want to feel better about themselves. And this approach is so harmful. It is also exploitative, and it creates this unjust hierarchy. And even though the person who raised this question maybe didn't feel like it was something terrible to do, it's our responsibility to think about our approach and our intention when we approach others, because it can have very negative effects. And another example is that a friend of mine who's based in Brazil, he shared with me about this viral image on social media, where there was a workshop and a bunch of white photographers traveled to an indigenous tribe, and they were all standing in a circle with their huge cameras photographing somebody from an indigenous tribe. There was literally any purpose to this, any context, and you immediately see that there is no sense of self-reflection in this process. And I always question, like, why do people even want to make such images? It's something that I really really have a question mark in my head about this. And of course the image was met with a lot of backlash, and I think it's completely justified. So when you are doing something that connects with other people, you have to also look yourself in the mirror and see, like, okay, how would I feel when somebody else would do this to me? Imagine that you're I don't know, let's say today is Sunday, so if I would be at home in my pajamas and somebody would knock on my door, I would open, there's a bunch of photographers from somewhere else, and they would just start taking pictures of me, like, well, my hair is messy and I don't know, I have a piece of toothpaste on my face. So strange, no? It's like, always try to reverse the situation and imagine yourself in the other people's shoes, because that's super important and something that we often forget. So, important rule: we don't steal from others for our own benefit, because this is bad intention and instant bad karma, and trust me, it will eventually get you if you're not aware of this. um, and it is very basic information. I always try to remind this to people during workshops or portfolio reviews, just that they are aware. And as I said already, it is our responsibility as artists to not harm others by our creative process, because we can then just create damage by simply not knowing. And we should strive for the opposite, no? We should strive for connecting with people and creating this empathetic engagement rather than causing harm. And I can tell you a story on how, let's say, how some random encounters with strangers happen. I can share with you from Mexico. And this was actually the first time, like when I arrived, I was changing planes in Mexico City to go to Oaxaca. It was like a 1 hour flight or something. And I was supposed to get picked up by a driver, but I arrived, and of course my data didn't work, the Wi-Fi didn't work, so I was panicking. Where do I meet this person? Very, very far away, and I have no idea what I'm doing. But eventually I managed to find this person, this driver, and he picked me up, and I knew that it's gonna be like a 35-40 minute drive. And what was really, really cute, that this was the first person that I actually met on this journey. And I was at this point when I had zero Spanish. I was just doing Duolingo before, and I just couldn't communicate besides basic phrases. And I saw that his name is Ricardo. He really tried to ask about me, or he was curious what I'm gonna do in his city, and why I ended up so far away from my home. And he told me, you know what, I have this app, and we can communicate through this app, and I think you should also download it, because it can help you communicate with people, because people don't speak very much English. So this can help you for your research and for your project, because I was going to spend a month there for an artist residency. So we started communicating through this app, and he was just so genuinely curious about me, and I really liked that, because I felt that he is trying to get to know me, and I was also trying to get to know him. So it was like a first encounter for me to dive into the culture and see how people react to me as a stranger, and let's say this intruder. And it was a very open energy, so I also opened myself to this experience. And I think what is a common thing that I hear from people is that they always expect the other person to maybe have bad intentions, or to expect something from you, so they close themselves up. But I think once you start doing this more often, you also train your gut feeling, that you know who has bad or good intentions with you. And here I felt there is no harm at all. And what was really cute, that throughout my stay in Oaxaca, Ricardo, he kept asking every other day, hey, how are you doing? How's your project on happiness doing? Here's a tip where to go, and here's a picture of my family. And it was just so genuine and so cute, because for me in Europe, it's very rare to connect with people like this, that people really like put everything out there, they share with you. And Ricardo, he just really cared, and I thought it was so special. And one day we also went for a trip with all the artists from the residency to a market. He came with us, he showed us the best places where to eat, and we shared food together. Then he drove us back. And when it was my last day, I asked if he would drive me to the airport. And when we sat in the taxi, I just felt kind of sad about leaving and about all the people that I met there. And I told him about it, and that I feel like sorry that I cannot connect with people like him more because I had a short time and everybody has their own schedule anyway. And we arrived to the airport and we both started crying because it was just a pure connection. It was very emotional, very simple, and very real. So this was a, I don't know, let's say connection with a stranger that I remember was very strong for me. And even though I just took like one portrait, I took one portrait when I was leaving of Ricardo, but the photograph came as an after effect of this, and it was not for me something that I had in my head the whole time. It was just a natural process. And now, even when I'm back here in Amsterdam, like once every few weeks, I get a message from Ricardo, how is everything going? He sometimes sends me a picture of the sea or where he drives his clients. So, yeah, I still keep in touch with the people that I have this connection because I think it's important. It's a positive cycle that you create for yourself, and these people are nice. They help you, so you don't just cut them off when you leave, right? So this is just an example from my way of working, and it's definitely not a perfect one, and it's something that I'm still trying to um, develop, especially when it comes to working in different environments, different cultures, different countries. So perhaps in a few months is going to be a whole different process, but this is just something that came to my mind. And I'm also very interested to hear what are your ways of engaging with strangers, and what stories stuck in your mind. And now I would like to also share with you a few tips on what I learned, let's say like these bullet points of do's and don'ts. So first of all, no is a no. If somebody is not open to you approaching them, photographing them, then don't push it. Because otherwise you can get yourself into bad situations. The people can regret the images that you take, or they can also get aggressive. So if it's a no, just put your ego aside, even though you know like, oh, this would be such a good picture, just don't do it. This is something that you have to accept. Second point is have no expectation from no expectations from the person that you're approaching, because then the connection is just more organic. Don't think about whenever you connect with somebody, oh, this is gonna be the moment I'm gonna take a picture. Just let the connection flow, take some time, don't push it. Because if things are rushed, the person can, first of all, back off, and second of all, feel that they're pushed in a direction they don't want to, or they don't see themselves in. So just let the connection or flow just as it feels right. Also, try to listen to the people you engage with. People want to be heard, and when you give them this space, they're more likely to open up to you when it comes to in front of the camera or on a human level as a person. Because I think that's something that I also noticed. It's something a lot in Europe. When I talk to people, I often notice that they're not really listening. And it irritates the hell out of me because if I'm sharing something, I'm sharing because I trust the person and I want the person to listen. But sometimes I see that the person is not listening. Usually the situation is that the person is waiting for me to finish so that they can start talking about themselves. So these kind of shallow connections are rough. So make sure that you are aware of what kind of impression you are giving, and listening is definitely an important part of this process. Another, or maybe at a later stage point, let's say, is when you're trying to document a certain experience and represent it, you really have to become part of it. Otherwise, you're just staying at the surface level. There's a lot of layers that you have to cross, and if you're somewhere and you're not in it completely, you also have to sacrifice something yourself. Either you're 100% your comfort zone. Sometimes your boundaries need to be a little bit stretched. So I can give an example. If when I was photographing at some parties or clubs, I always check out what is the vibe, what are the outfits, what is the atmosphere, and I try to dress or style myself accordingly so that I fit in, so I can blend in. Because if you're gonna wear something completely off, you're instantly blocking yourself to engage, because people feel that you don't belong there. And this is not something that you fake, but that you genuinely want. No, if you want to experience something, you have to make some work for it. And this is kind of a common sense point. You cannot apply all the same things to the variety of people. You know, people have different cultures, they have different personalities. So you have to be aware of it, and you have to do the analysis in your head before you start acting or saying things. So with some people, you can start taking pictures almost immediately. With some, it might take a lot of time. Depends how much comfortable people are with a camera. And from my experience, I know women, let's say, who are used to the camera, so they can go and start shooting like this. But there were instances when I was with a person for multiple days and I didn't take a single pictures because you have to watch their body language. You know, if you take out the camera, suddenly they're like this, they're tense as hell, then it's not the time to start taking pictures. And you have to be aware that you are the one navigating the atmosphere. So if the person is not feeling comfortable, then you're not gonna go into that discomfort, let's say. And at the same time, another level from this is, I realized that the best pictures that I took was when people felt that they have control of the entire situation, that they're completely free on expressing themselves, which is something that I very much try to do. But at the same time, without them realizing, I'm the one actually in control because I am navigating the space and I created the atmosphere. But you're the one who needs to make it smooth and not noticeable. It's something very instinctive. It's hard for me to say step by step how to do this, but if you have this at the back of your head, maybe there's a point during a shoot when you realize, like, oh yeah, this is actually when it happened, you know. So you'll see if it happens or not. And at the same time, another thing is, you don't always have to be the one approaching people. You can also get yourself approached. I like to do this a lot when or I am mainly traveling alone, but when I'm somewhere outside, I like to go to random squares for walks, or just sit somewhere in a bar or restaurant and I wait what's gonna happen. If you're open, if you have a nice body language, if you come with a good energy, I can assure you that something is gonna happen. And one of the example stories of what happened to me like this was again in Mexico, when I was just sitting at a square, and it was after I ate so much tacos that I just needed to go for a walk, and I kept doing this every day because I kept eating so much every day, and it became my night ritual. And then after my walk, I was just sitting at this cute square where a lot of people gathered. They were just playing games, or there were still like food vendors. And when I was sitting there, I saw a man that was coming to me, and he was holding like this weird wheel and object, and he had a sign on his body which said that, in Spanish, it said something that he's collecting money for a surgery because he is sick from his stomach or something like that. And he asked me for some change, and I gave him something that I had in my pocket. It was not much. And when I did that, he asked me if he can join me to sit down. And I said, yeah, of course, I'm not waiting for anybody. And he was really surprised that I said yes, because he tried to approach a lot of people on the square, and everybody just walked past him. And he had this very jittery body language, but I didn't mind. I sensed good energy from this person. So I was talking to him, and he was explaining to me that he comes from a different city, not from Oaxaca, and that he was working for a mezcal factory, and that throughout COVID, there was a huge crisis in this industry because a lot of people who were part of this industry became alcoholics, and then it all went bankrupt, and the crisis kind of continues, and it destroyed a lot of people's lives. So when he was explaining this to me, I realized that this is probably his own story, which would also make sense why his stomach is not working properly, and his body language. So I just wanted to listen what he has to say, because it was interesting to me. In here there is no mezcal. There are people who weren't affected in such a way. So I was just sitting there and listening what he has to say. And at some point I asked him what does happiness mean to him, and he was really shocked by the question, and he took some time to respond. And his answer was to have something to do tomorrow and to have money in my pocket. It was such a short-lived description of happiness. It was for the first time that I heard somebody say a description of happiness as almost like a survival way of being, um, and it made me think a lot. He said some really important things for the project that it changed my way of thinking about the concept of happiness, and about our approach to life. He also told me that, Linda, I'm not a criminal, but my circumstances make me think like one. And this whole sentence also like messed up with my brain, because I was like, holy moly, these situations, these circumstances are just unimaginable for me. And we ended up sitting there for like 2 hours, and he was so cute. At some point, he was like, Linda, do you want to go for hot chocolate together? Linda, do you want to go for barbecue together? And I said, no, I'm good. I just ate a lot. We can just chill here. Do you want something to eat? I can buy for you. And he was really touched, and I was really touched by his words too. And he gave me my money back that I initially gave him, and he even wanted to give me more. I said, no, this is for you. I'm fine. And he kept like giving me cookies and stuff. It was just very pure. And I think by this exchange we learn a lot from each other. And I like to think about these encounters that just by being open and saying, yes, you can join me here and let's have a conversation, it can have a tremendous impact on the way you think, on your life choices. So just try to be open, and invite with your energy people like Marco and Ricardo into your life. And this was just like a little ending story for this episode. And to finish up, I still wanted to bring up one book. I show you here. So this book is called Fingerprint by Jim Goldberg. It's published by Stanley Barker. And why I'm bringing up this book here, well, let me give you a little bit of context. So Jim Goldberg, he did a body of work in California. He was documenting the youth there, I think during 80s and 90s in a Polaroid format. And he was showing the realities of these adolescents. They were filled with addiction, of abuse and violence. And what was really, really nice about this project is that he not only took pictures of these people on the streets, but he gave them back the Polaroids and let them write on it. So by doing this, he didn't become the mediator of their story, but he also gave them the voice so they could express themselves, and you can sense their personality through what they wrote. So here are some examples from it's a book, but it's a collection of photographs, literally. And I like that they even maintained the back sides with the scribbles, with the stamps and everything. And the Polaroids, they have it's just printed on the paper, but they have this shiny part, like a regular Polaroid, and on the edge it's matte. It's with so the people where people wrote, you can hear see, what did he say? I am a normal person, Scott. It's very cute, no? And another samples here. This is True Love. And this one. This one says, going to Texas to save my life, change my ways. Too bad I have to leave San Francisco to do it. You all just wish you looked this good. So why I bring up this book is, of course, because it's a lot about engaging with strangers, and at the same time it shows, for me, empathetic engagement, that you do not only take away the story from the people, but you also try to give them a voice and give something back. So this is something that is also close to my work, or I try to apply it when I'm photographing myself. So I think we're coming to an end of this second episode. It's getting longer and longer. I'm sorry, I hope you can bear with me. This time I made a few bullet points because I think last time my mind was a bit all over the place because it was like a freestyle stream of consciousness. But this time I tried to be more prepared. So I hope you enjoy this episode, and please share with me your thoughts. I'm gonna be back with you in a week. Ciao, ciao!